Hello, everyone. My name's Kevin Connor, and I'm going to be your instructor for this semester. I just wanted to kind of introduce the course, both kind of what we're trying to do here and also kind of the layout of all the Canvas pages. So, this course is current economic problems, and so the idea is that it's going to be a bit more topical than some of your other courses that maybe deal a lot more with like old theory or tools of how to do economics, right? So we're really zeroing in on current problems. But that doesn't mean we're not going to be doing a little bit of background on each of these topics because there aren't a lot of prerequisites for this course. So if I'm going to talk about welfare economics, then I need to, introduce it at the very least. But I would also invite you to think about this course as a bit of a sampling platter of what the department has to offer. In constructing this course, I really kind of zeroed in on things that our department does very well or does a lot of, like inequality work or labor economics, health economics. So these are all things that we have faculty that they do a lot of work on. And so if you kind of really enjoy one of these classes, maybe think of that as an opportunity to be like, hey, maybe I should take a health economics elective or a labor economics elective. So keep that in the back of your mind as you're kind of going through these classes week to week. So, being from this kind of weird economics department, you're probably already like somewhat skeptical, or have at least been introduced to the idea that we don't stick strictly to like a textbook definition of economics. One of those that's really common is, for instance, economics is a science which studies human behavior as a relationship between ends and scarce means which have alternative uses. And this really kind of constrains economics to like this science of choice, the decision of what to produce, of what job to have, of what to consume. And so it kind of reduces economics to this very narrow window of just exchange. But economics can be thought of more broadly. It's a social science. We deal with people, so it can't be exact. People aren't atoms. They don't just bounce around according to natural law. It's more complicated than that. They have biases and history, and they come to the market with different things from birth, right? And we can't ignore that fact. And I think that this really comes to bear whenever we think about the current economic problems that we're actually concerned about, right? I mean, right now with the COVID, there's so many things we are thinking of macroeconomic activity, jobs, incomes, people's health, trying to figure out how we get enough resources sent to the uses we most care about, so it still does have an element of choice in it. And I mean, furthermore, as I sit here recording this is a day or two after the protests downtown about over police brutality, right? And so this is all about like historic oppression and the denial of property rights and other civil rights of one group of individuals over another. And so these all have some economic character to them. So I would say that most of the economic issues that we actually care about are very political and have little connection to our formal definition based in ends and scarce means. So, moving on from that kind of conceptual discussion of the course, let's talk about the specifics of how you're going to interact with this course. So, whenever you go on the Canvas page, this is where you're going to land. We've got the syllabus here. Discussions is some guidance for how you will be completing one of the assignments this semester. And then each class has a date associated with it, and that's when that specific class is going to be mapped onto like the in-person meetings that we would have had. We'll talk about the class pages in more detail in just a moment, but first I'd like to go over the syllabus briefly. So up top, you've kind of got all the normal information. Required materials is Ha-Joon Chung's Economics, the User's Guide. It's really accessible book. It's fun to read. Chang's funny. and it kind of gives a lot of background on things that we'll talk about. Course objectives, pretty much we're just going to focus on critical analysis of current issues from a variety of different viewpoints, looking at different forms of economic analysis and different ways to present data to support or attack a given hypothesis. And I'm also going to really emphasize policy. Not just, hey, here's problems, but what do societies and what do individuals actually do about it? So that's kind of my thoughts on like where this course is going. The course is entirely online. You're going to be asked to watch video lectures, take quizzes over assigned readings, participate in discussion threads, and complete short weekly assignments. There's no exams. And so also this course is entirely what's called asynchronous, which means that I'm not going to ask you at any point to show up at a specific time for a digital meeting. They're all going to be pre-recorded videos. That just tends to work better for everyone. It's a lot more flexible. Canvas discussions. So you'll be required once this semester to select a news article and start a discussion thread. Make sure it's from a reputable source. If it's not, I'll let you know. You don't have to do any writing about it, but then your fellow students are going to be required to respond to it. And by the end of this course, you need to have one post where you select an article, and you need to respond to 10 other posts. It doesn't have to be much. I'll talk about what's expected of you in that later in this video. Each class has assigned readings associated with it, and there's going to be reading quizzes over those. So I don't put any time limit on them, so you can kind of like look at the material, take the quiz, and go back and forth. So the idea is that they are open book quizzes, as it were. And then each week, instead of exams, we're going to have an assignment for each week. And this could be short essay, multiple choice, or maybe a discussion post or something like that. Grading policy, pretty normal grading scale. The breakdown is 40% reading quizzes, 20% discussions, 40% assignments. So pretty straightforward there. Below that, I've got important dates for the summer semester, tentative course outline, and course policies. Pretty much just late work in this context, where I'll accept late work at a penalty, but if you let me know ahead of time, we can usually work something out. And of course, if you've got an emergency or some university requirement that you won't be able to turn in your assignment on time, let me know and we'll waive the penalty. So below that, all of the university policies that are in every syllabus, read those at your leisure. All right, so going back to the homepage, each class has a date associated with here. So for instance, this one is the 18th. I'm going to have that class open ahead of time, but each subsequent one is going to open on the marked date. The week of the marked date. I just kind of put those dates there as a way to kind of pace it. It's also important to remember that during the summer semester, each class counts as kind of 2 normal semester classes. So I am going to ask you to do quite a bit for each class. So for example, let's take a look here at class 10. So each class has some sort of visual at the top, a short introduction talking about kind of what we're going to be talking about, and then readings. So this one here, I've got an optional but recommended reading, which means that questions from it aren't going to pop up in your reading quiz, but the 2 other readings are required, and then there's a video lecture associated with those readings. So this block here of readings corresponds to the first reading quiz. But because each class counts as 2 in the summer, there's a second block of readings, and those are associated with the second reading quiz down here. And there's going to be a video for that block of readings as well. And then finally, there's going to be an assignment. That link will be active whenever you can see it. And finally, down at the very bottom, I tend to just throw a bunch of additional resources. So these are things that I had to cut due to keeping the videos short and reasonable, kind of trying to respect your time there. Kind of alternative perspectives on what we talked about, or just stuff that I think is kind of interesting. I will also be posting the slides that appear in the videos and my lecture notes down in the additional resources section as well, if you want them. And like I said, those links will be active when the time comes. So finally, I did want to just talk about the discussions briefly. So this discussion thread just kind of talks about the specifics of that assignment. And if you have any questions about it after reading this, go ahead and just put a reply in this thread, and that will, and I'll try to answer those there. All right, so that's about it. Please let me know if you have any questions about navigating the course. I am trying to bundle due dates. So for instance here, I've got all of these due on the 25th. But if I go to the next class, which meets 2 days later, all of that stuff's also due on the 25th. And so the idea here is not that, you do everything midnight before it's due, or just before midnight when it's due, but it's to give you some flexibility there. And I am spacing out these due dates so that you do pace a bit, and hopefully don't burn yourself out. Well, all right. I think that's all I've got for this intro video, and I'm really looking forward to teaching this course for you guys. All right, thanks.